What if the biggest barrier to your daily growth isn't actually your lack of time or your lack of resources or your environment or any other external circumstance? What if that ceiling that you feel like you keep hitting isn't outside of you, but actually inside of you? Most of us spend our lives trying to change our results by changing our actions first. Obviously, there's action that needs to be, to happen, but we do that first. We push harder, we wake up earlier, we force ourselves into new habits. But there is a silent and deeply ingrained architecture beneath the surface that dictates almost everything that you do. And that's our subconscious mind. We've talked about it before. That's our subconscious mind. So what we're going to do today is that we're going to take a look at why our progress feels sometimes like we are struggling or that we are stuck. And we're going to figure out a way to tap into this, forgotten power for most of us. We aren't looking to hustle. I don't really like that word. That's almost, it sounds a little desperate and out of sorts. What we're going to do is look for the key that's going to help us to unlock this unstoppable engine for personal evolution by turning our limitations into alignment. So guys, welcome into ReThink Podcast. My name is Kelly. I'm your host. It's my pleasure to welcome you into yet another podcast. I would say because this may be the first break in what we've been recording this year, but hopefully everybody's being safe. This is January 25th, and so there's, in the U.S. at least, there's a big, storm surge going on. So everybody be safe, be warm, and, do what you need to do to keep you and your family safe. So thank you guys so much for continuing to support the podcast, particularly long-timers. Thank you guys for continuing to hang out with us on the podcast side. You may have noticed that we are a lot more active, and I told you we would be on our social media. So we're posting a minimum of 3 times a day to all of our social media. So if you're not following us, please make sure that you take the time to follow us on Facebook or YouTube and TikTok. TikTok's been really great. You guys convinced me TikTok's been a really good tool for us. So we are going to continue to push through TikTok. We're going to do live on Facebook and TikTok. We tried to do it tonight, but had some technical difficulties. So we're going to kind of do how we normally do, but also Instagram and Threads. So we're on all social media platforms. Please, if you're not following us, please go out and do that. But this video is not going to be long today. This podcast is not going to be long today. I just wanted to really get this message out. And we've got some additional follow-up stuff that we're going to do starting tomorrow. So I hope you're excited for that as well. Let's talk about it. What is the actual problem? The invisible friction. Think about a time. Really think about this now. Think about a time that you really wanted to either start a new project or change a behavior. Maybe it was waking up earlier so that you can work out, or maybe it was just simply you losing weight, or perhaps you wanted to focus on your public speaking skills. You wanted to speak more confidently in meetings or in public sectors. So for the first 3 days, you're good, right? You're successful. It's day 4 where you may begin to notice you start getting a little tired. And then by day 7, you've almost reverted back to your old self. And we usually call this a lack of willpower. And we feel discouraged, and we feel, like we can't get this thing done. We tell ourselves that maybe we're just not that kind of person. This is just who we are. We're just not that kind of person. But here, the truth may lie right here. You're not really failing. You were not really failing. What was happening is you're experiencing some level of homeostasis. And what that means is your subconscious mind has a blueprint in it. This is a blueprint of who it thinks you are. And you've built it over your life. And when you try to act in a way that goes against that or contradicts that blueprint, what happens is your internal system, led by your ego, creates friction to bring you back to what it considers to be safe or normal. Safe or normal. So this shows up in things like procrastination and overthinking. And you have this subtle heaviness about you, in your chest when you think about stepping out of your comfort zone, like almost, queasiness in your stomach. You're essentially driving your car with the emergency brake on. And I've done that before. And if you've ever driven your car, I mean, cars today are much newer, but I think you can still get away with it. In the olden days, you would leave the emergency brake on, you drive the car, and you say, something just doesn't feel right. And that's really what's happening with you now. You're just moving sluggishly and slower. And the cause is this. It's the subconscious blueprint. So what and why is this happening? As we discussed on the podcast before, a very large reflection of our subconscious conditioning affects our lives. So you have people like Neville, Goddard, who taught us that the world is a mirror of our inner states. And I really do believe that. I really believe that our outer is a direct reflection of our inner. And I'll even go further than that the people in our lives that we are around and we surround ourselves with, they are also mirrors into who we are. So if you're finding yourself very frustrated or in disagreement with someone's behavior or personality, you may want to look internally, because many times I've found that is actually a reflection of myself. So your subconscious is like a massive library of your experiences, your criticisms that you've heard as a child, your instructions that you've heard as a child, and every fact that you've ever accepted into your life, and particularly those about, and around limitations, things you can and can't do. It doesn't judge whether these facts are true. That's the key. It does no discernment. This is your subconscious mind, not your conscious mind. Your conscious mind, remember, is discernment and logic and rationale, and it's the gatekeeper. But your subconscious, once it gets past the gate, it simply executes whatever gets past the gate. So if your subconscious mind believes, for example, that I am someone who struggles with money, then no amount of hustle is going to keep your bank account, stay in your bank account very long. If your identity is I'm an outsider, also, for example, you're going to find ways to feel lonely even in a crowded room. And I know people like this, and I can identify to some degree with some of this. The barrier isn't that the barrier is that you aren't capable necessarily. The barrier is that you are currently programmed to stay exactly where you are. Unless you're aware of it, number one, and unless, we do what we're going to talk about here in the solution, number two. So we've been taught to use force, action, to change our lives. But force is exhausting, and a lot of times is not necessarily productive because it doesn't come from a place of awareness. So awareness is what actually creates the shift. So let's talk about solution. What is the solution? Practical reprogramming. It's not going to be some bells going off in your bedroom or your meditation room or closet. It's not going to be some, harps start singing. It's going to be gradual and progressive. So how do we release the brake? How do you reprogram your mind, your subconscious mind? It isn't done through intensity. It's done through gentle consistency, small steps. And here are three steps that we can take, practical steps, and you can begin these today. So let's talk about number one, conscious observation, which is what we're doing now. We are identifying the issue and we're bringing it to your awareness. So throughout the day, whenever you notice or you feel yourself resistant, don't judge it. All right, that's number one. Don't judge it. Don't judge yourself. Just say, okay, I hear myself, I see this pattern. And when you observe a thought rather than identifying with it, you create a gap. So you've got to know that you have a mind. You're not your mind. So you are the awareness of your mind. And that part's very important because many people think they are their mind. They believe they are their body. But there is a gap between you and your mind, you and your body. So when you see these thoughts, you can be aware of them, and that creates a gap. And in that gap, identifying that gap in itself will reclaim your power. Step number two is to identify the I am. This is the identity-based affirmations. They are called the I am shift. The I am shift. The subconscious responds to identity. Again, right now, the old program is running on who it believes you are up until this point. And the information it's running on is stuff that you've accepted. Maybe you've accepted that you're going to be heavy. Maybe you've accepted that you're going to be in a certain socioeconomic class. Maybe you've accepted subconsciously that you're just going to be single or no woman or man or whatever wants you. Maybe you've done that. Instead of saying these things, I'm gonna give you an example. Instead of saying things like I am trying to be productive because I don't like trying or should or could, either you do or you don't. Instead of saying things like that, try I am a person who values focus. I'm not trying to be productive. I'm a person who values focus. I am productive. Shift the focus from action to the being. Shift from becoming to being. And you can jump into that timeline and become and be that version of yourself. Use your imagination, as Goddard suggested. Use your imagination. That's what you have it for. To feel those tones of reality. How would it feel to you if you were that person that you've always wanted to be? If you were married, or if you were slimmer, if you were a business owner, if you were a vice president, if you were a homeowner, whatever your goal is, you can use your imagination and put yourself in that position. Now, nothing, absolutely nothing is keeping you from doing that. That is absolutely free, and you can put yourselves in that tone of reality, and that one thing is going to affect your subconscious mind more than the actions of your hand in an unconscious way. In other words, the doing and all that is going to fall by the wayside. But fixing the inside and allowing it to manifest to the outside is what we're suggesting here. So step number three is the sleep gateway. So the sleep gateway, the state just before sleep, where your subconscious mind is most receptive. The state just before sleep, where your subconscious mind is its most receptive. Don't fall asleep scrolling or looking at the news or your phone or stressing out or in arguments with your spouse or whoever. Don't do that. Spend the last 5 minutes of your day visualizing your progress as if it has already happened. If you want to lose the weight, visualize yourself as the weight you want to be. Create a simple scene in your mind. Create a very simple scene in your mind. Imagine yourself stepping on the scale in your bathroom and it reads the number that you want it to read. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be a whole movie, but just one scene that you can replay in your mind of your goal. If you want to be the vice president in your, corporation, and you know where the vice president sits, within your office, then see yourself sitting in that office. See yourself leading the meetings or whatever your vice president does. Let your subconscious mind marinate in these feelings as if they were done while you're sleeping. Sleeping is a very, very powerful tool and a very powerful state, one that I don't think we really have spent a whole lot of time on, that we we do need to spend more time on talking about here. But it's something that we take for granted. Just like our imagination. We did a full-blown podcast series on imagination last year, and we really got into the details about how powerful the imagination is and what we can do and use it in terms of a tool. And we're going to do the same thing at some point this year related to sleep. So steps 1 through 3, recap. Step number 1 is conscious observation. Step number 2 is the I am shift. This is the identity-based affirmations. You are going to change the way that you are talking to yourself about yourself. And step number 3, the sleep gateway. We're going to think about the things that we want in the most positive way right before we drop off to sleep, as if they're already done. So how do we integrate this into our lives? What I want you to remember about change is that it's natural. I think many times we're in these religious environments and people talk about these fantastical things happen, and I'm not suggesting that they don't, but we tend to think change and these occurrences may not be happening for us because we're not seeing anything fantastical. Well, at the end of the day, change is natural, and it is, progressive, and you just have to commit to this over time, right? You just have to commit to this over time. Think about a seed, for example. It is not hustling to become a, vegetation or tree or tomato. It simply unfolds because that's the nature of the seed, provided that it has the right environment, of course. So by working with your subconscious mind, you are simply fixing the environment. You are removing the stones from the soil. Okay? If you feel discouraged today because you feel stuck, I want you to take a deep breath. You are not broken. You are not stuck. We're going to revitalize the way that you're thinking about your situation. You've been you've been operating on an old operating system. Think about your computer and how when you do the updates, for the most part, it runs much smoother. Sometimes you do updates and it takes, a little while to happen, but you get the idea. If you're running on an old operating system, your phone or your computer is just not going to run the same. Today is the day that you begin your update. So I want you to be patient with yourself. Don't judge yourself. This isn't a race. You're not doing this against anyone. This is an awakening. This is your time to do the things that you need to do. Now, I am going to leave in our comments or in our notes, wherever you are looking at us, there is a gratitude journal that we have that can help you to track this type of progress, particularly your I am affirmations. You can write your statements in there, and you can write down the things each day that you're thankful for and the things that are specific to the goals in your life. Okay, so I'll make sure I'll leave that in the comments. It's an actual book. This is not an ebook. This is an actual hard copy book, and it can take you throughout, a large part of the year. It's 100. I think it's 100. My book, I think I left upstairs, but I think it's 100 days of gratitude or something like that. And I'll put it in the comments here, and I'll certainly make sure we have it on our social media sites. So if you would like to have it, so that you can utilize it, in accompaniment with this particular podcast and video, it is going to be there for you to utilize. But that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope this has been helpful for you. And we're going to try again with our lives, our YouTube and our TikTok. So guys, if you are not following us, please make sure that you are following us on all social media platforms. And I will have an announcement out no later than tomorrow when we're going to go live again. And I'll have all the technical stuff figured out by then. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.